Congress President Dawn Wainwright moving this composite proudly on behalf of Unison. We support the explanation from the General Council. Congress this year, July, saw the 3 highest global temperatures ever recorded, and a new study released for the Global Climate Conference in Bonn in June showed that pollution now alone accounts for more deaths globally than war, disease and drugs combined. But Congress, like heat waves, which we know are the deadliest type of extreme weather, pollution is an unseen devastation. Heat waves don't leave a trail of destruction or striking images of catastrophe, but they are estimated to kill 30 times more people a year than tropical cyclones. Congress, both at home and abroad, pollution and heat prey on the poorest and the most disadvantaged people and communities. And we have to accept that we can't put off action until it's more convenient or until there is a perfect plan. It will cost us much more in lives as well as financially to wait than to act. This year, experts at the London School of Economics concluded that by just 2030, only 6 short years away, global excess deaths caused by climate change will be costing a global economy over £5 billion a year. On any level, that is a shocking and unacceptable statistic, but we are not helpless bystanders. Congress, this is a crisis that all trade unionists, all members and all people should get angry and active about. As has been said many times now, there were no jobs on a dead planet, but Congress before that, there was no NHS, a welfare state or a habitable environment on a dying one. Collectively, our workers across every sector are key stakeholders in the necessary transformations required to meet this challenge, and we must use our influence to act and support our members' actions towards addressing this emergency situation. That's why the TUC can't let up on this agenda and must continue to recognise this work as part of an organising agenda for all workers, as well as a vital policy campaign where it must use a significant influence to keep the government's feet to the fire on this issue. Vitally, we must not fall into the trap of thinking that the impacts of climate change and the transition away from fossil fuels only affect certain groups. Everyone in this country and globally has skin in the game and has a great deal to lose if this crisis is not met rapidly and fairly. Here in the UK, we have everything we need for a just and rapid transition away from fossil fuels. Many other countries are not so lucky. So Congress, this is why we must press for climate impact assessment to be at the heart of everything our government does, and for a Just Transition Commission to be set up to give this matter the urgency and attention it deserves, with representatives from trade unions, climate experts, civil society stakeholders, as well as government and employer representatives on its board, with real powers to set standards and a common framework for a genuinely just transition to net zero. And of course, Congress, we must ensure that we must support and equip our green activists to work in partnership via their branch on progressing this vital work at a local level to ensure us are at this table at every stage. From the price of energy and food production creating a cost of living crisis to the extraordinary additional burden on the NHS of climate-related health conditions, climate change will affect and is already affecting every aspect of our members' lives and work. The direct impacts and the additional financial burdens of climate change on the public purse are now evident to all. Make no mistake, the money we're not investing now upfront on meeting those vital targets will end up being spent 10 or 100 times over on attempting to adapt to whatever comes next. We wait to see if this new government can be ambitious enough to do what's needed, both fairly and in time. The UK must urgently get back on track with its commitments and continue to lead and encourage others to do the same. Getting to net zero can't be at the cost of people's livelihoods or relying on other countries taking on the burden instead of us, or it simply won't work. And we can't continue to let the most disadvantaged communities and countries take the brunt of the devastating consequences of this crisis. We need to work together and meet the crisis head-on with a planned approach to an urgent and just transition for all. Congress, we are at the tipping point, and the TUC and all our members have a vital role to play in tackling the climate emergency and getting to net zero, not only in time, but also in a way that leaves no one behind. Congress and move.
Congress President John Maloney on behalf of the PCS to second motion C18. But before getting to the motion, I want to express my union's solidarity and support to the unions and people in workers in Port Talbot as we await the expected terrible news today of mass job losses there. My union also gives support and solidarity to the steel workers in Scunthorpe as they await their fate as well. It's an terrible indictment of this country, that this country apparently, or this Labour government, is indifferent as to whether there should be a steel industry in this country. Certainly, we believe there must be a steel industry. It should produce green steel, and that we have to have an industrial strategy worthy of that name. Turning to the motion itself, what I'd like to do is address the Unite brother who, during the debate on CM5, posed two important questions. He said, where is the plan and where are the green jobs? Well, in relation to the green jobs, this government claims it's going to create 675,000 green jobs. We have to press the government immediately to say what those jobs are, to make sure that they're put in the right places to help people who are impacted by climate change and the move to net zero, with a guaranteed right that those jobs are reserved for people impacted in transitional industries, the high-intensity industries, with no loss of pay. Turning to the second question posed by the brother, he talked about where are the plans. If we pass this motion, we can work jointly together to produce a plan that we can put forward to the government. Certainly, the civil service will want to be part of that plan, my union. Under the pressure of COVID, we produced a furlough system. We can produce an income support system for all affected workers in this country. We have the machinery in the DWP, HMRC, DBT, DESNES, and also in EFRA to actually help deliver those plans. That's why we need a national climate service so that the civil service is properly organised. Congress, if we pass this motion, then we can seize the opportunity to go to the government with a united voice that demands proper transitional changes that are planned, not actually delivered by the chaos of the market. Please seize this opportunity. Please support this motion. Let's go forward united. Thank you.
President, getting this composite to the floor has taken weeks of work, so well done to all involved. UCU's amendment hasn't made it to the final draft, but it's important that we talk about the dire environmental consequences of war and why the government must taper defence spending and arms proliferation with a just transition into climate jobs for affected workers. Why? Of course, we are sympathetic to the concerns raised by our colleagues in the sectors employed in these industries. They should not be the victims of government failure. But the need for a just transition is abundant. Climate change, and as we have just heard from the ambassador, the dire consequences of war are already having disastrous consequences. Money is poured into spending on weapons which fuel war, genocide, divide our side, and ultimately weaken our movement. They also degrade our planet. Every single penny of investment in the arms industry is money that could be put to better use. We could see an end to the iniquitous two-child cap and the creation of green industries and jobs. But instead of being used for good, we see that money being used to harm and destroy. There could not be a more horrifying wake-up call than the genocide in Gaza. We see the horror of these crimes every time we scroll our phones. It would be a historic stain on our movement if we continue to support building more weapons used to unleash hell on earth in Palestine. Our class must not be the victims of an austerity-driven approach to decarbonisation. Of course not. but they cannot also be the victims of war and its environmental consequences. Our movement must demand everything: a tapering of defence spending and a just transition to green jobs. Support the composite, but this crucial debate is not going away. Thank you.